making the dolls. It is making friends. So I'm making my friends. When I was 9 years old, we lived in England for a year in London, and I think that was the time where I got introduced sewing, handwork, embroidery, and that sort of thing in school. But I don't think it ever really occurred to me that you could do that for a job. I was a potter for 20 years. So in 1999, I felt pretty strongly that I was ready to move into doing something different. I had decided that I was going to take a year off from my pottery work. So I talked to my galleries and I said, I'm not going to give you any new work for a year. And I took all my pottery equipment and I pushed it over to the side of the studio, and I was doing some painting and I was doing some printmaking. It was terrible. The building that I had my studio in burned down. It was bad for me because I was at a point where I was thinking that I was going to change. And so I really floundered for a while until I found my footing again. I think I really started making the dolls in, 2000 or 2001. And my mother-in-law had these antique dolls that they had lost all their clothes over the many moves and many years. And so we were going to dress them again. And then she got dementia and she couldn't participate in the project. So I dressed the dolls, but as I was doing the research, I just got so interested in it, and I was getting all the books out of the library and looking on, this was like early days of eBay, and there was like all this interesting things to research on there, and I just sucked me in, and that was really how I got started. Getting out of the house is a big way of getting inspired. Just leaving the house and taking a walk. I might see a color combination of, a leaf that fell onto a car, and it'll be like two colors. I'm like, wow, that's so beautiful. Or I'll see somebody walking down the street, and there's something about them. So somewhere in 2005 or something around there, it just became very popular. And there'd be people with tattoos that I just never saw so much of it before. And so I started thinking, that would be fun to try to make a doll like that. But it took me a really long time to figure out how to do the tattoos. And I kept thinking about it, and I call that process a composting. It's like in the garden when everything has to settle down and turn back into soil. So then I was thinking, well, maybe there's some fabric that already looks like somebody drew on it. And that's when I finally thought of the toile fabric. And I was like, I'm going to make this doll and I'll see if anybody gets it. I didn't know if people would understand that they were supposed to look like tattoos. And so I posted it up there and people were like, oh, right away. Everybody was like, oh, that looks so great. So I was like, oh, yes, they get it. During this pandemic, I sold one to South Africa, which was the first time I had sold one to South Africa, but we couldn't ship it. They've closed the international shipping in South Africa. So that was the problem. That didn't work out. But I have collectors in Japan, and I've sent South Korea, I've sent Thailand, I sent places in South America, I send a lot of them to the UK and Europe. So yeah, I sell them all over. It's very interesting to see who the customer is and what they're getting out of it, because it's not just one thing. It's a wide range of experiences, what they're attracted to. It is very interesting to me that it's a full range of people and not really what you'd expect. When people say dream big or whatever, I always think to myself, I've had such great things happen that I never would have ever been able to dream about. I never could have imagined when I started down the road of what I was doing. One of my big mottos is just do something. Don't just wait around for lightning to strike or something. Start doing something. It's going to lead somewhere. I do see the benefits of what happened. In retrospect, it wasn't the end of the world. If I hadn't had that basically complete loss, it would have taken me longer. There's a funny thing about doll makers where I feel like no matter if they're making a baby or a man or a fashionly woman, it always somehow looks like them. And that's sort of where they're related to me. They come from my hands and they have something about them that looks like me. My daughter tells me her friends' parents are always on them about grandchildren. And I say, well, I'm making my own grandchildren here.